I was sitting in this chair actually, and I just was like, wow, I did it. It's done. Do I want to keep doing it? And I had that very serious debate with myself, because a lot of us really build up that idea of being an author and writing a book. And then when you finally do it and it's in your hand, it's like, okay, was it worth it?
All right. Long time no see, everybody. Welcome back to the Quill Query podcast. My name is Brandon Hall, and as always, I am joined today by my wonderful co-host, Ash. Ash, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Took a nap. Ready to rock. How are you doing?
I am doing well also. It's really good to be back, especially with a very special guest. So I'll stop yapping for a minute so he can go ahead and introduce himself. Michael, tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thank you all for having me onto the show today. Hello, folks. For those who don't know me, I am Michael Vadney. I am the author of Crownfall, a noble dark fantasy adventure, and I'm also the host of the author adjacent podcast. So it's always very special to me when I get to do these book interviews with other podcasters, because then it's like there's more overlap to talk about, and it's just really fun. So thank you all for having me.
Yeah, of course. Like I said before we started the show, we've never had someone who's done their own podcast before, so it'll be really cool to kind of get your thoughts on some of that.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Before we get into all of that, though, just a little bit of an icebreaker topic. What have you guys been up to? Michael, I guess we'll start with you. Reading any good books lately? Playing any good games? See any movies? What's keeping you busy when you're not writing or working these days?
Well, we were talking about it a little bit pre-show, but I am someone who doesn't really have a lot of idle time. I'm constantly doing things because there's so many things that I want to do, to the point where I used to be a big gamer, but now I only really play every once in a while because there's just so many other things that I want to get done. But I am occasionally playing Borderlands 4 with my wife, as that is something we've played since like the very beginning, and we're finally getting to the latest one. And it's been really fun. I love the loot and shoot kind of paradigm of video games. Can be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like book stuff goes, where did I put it? I'm reading this right now, Outpost by W. Michael Gear. It's been sitting on my shelf for like literally years, and I'm like, I finally need to start reading this. So I just started it the other day, and it kind of reminds me of like if Dan Brown wrote Doom, like the video game Doom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's
very interesting pitch.
Yeah, it's interesting so far. I'm very curious to see how it goes. And besides that, I'm doing a lot of Spiffbo reading because I'm one of the judges for Spiffbo for the FanFi Addict team.
Oh, very cool.
And the other big thing I'm probably doing is ramping up narration, trying to figure out how to record narration to do this for an audiobook. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so real quick with that, are you trying to narrate yourself, or are you looking to hire a narrator?
I'm actually doing it myself.
Very cool.
That's
yeah,
exciting.
we've had a couple people on who've done that as well. So you'll have to keep us posted on your progress with that.
I appreciate that.
What about you, Ash? Up to anything fun other than traveling lately?
Yeah, it's lots of travel, lots of visiting family. I've been not really watching anything too crazy. We've been behind on House of the Dragon, so we have to catch up now that we're back. But that's kind of what we've been watching consistently. And then I just picked up Between Two Fires. And I've heard it was good. I'm blanking on the author's name. Forgive me for my lapse. It's been a long day. But I'm also reading Samantha Shannon's The Bone Season series. So I'm on the Song Rises, which I think is the third book. So yeah, just lots of reading, getting back into the writing groove. Much needed break. So yeah, just the usual.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
Cool. Yeah. I do have Between Two Fires on audiobook. Everyone always recommends that. I have not gotten to it yet, though, and so
it's really great.
I definitely need to get to that soon.
About it.
Yeah,
it's nothing but praise for that book. So when I do get to it eventually, I'll be very excited. Lately, I've been actually doing like a Tolkien deep dive, going back to kind of the basics with fantasy. So I reread The Hobbit, and then I read Fellowship, because I've never actually read from like the beginning to the end with Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've kind of just gone wherever I felt like to kind of like compare movie scenes, but I've never just like read all the way through. So I know that's a little weird. So trying to correct that. Outside of that, I've definitely been at the movies quite a bit lately. I saw The Odyssey, Spider-Man, all the big releases of the summer. So that was fun.
Nice.
And yeah, Michael, like you said, I try to find time to game. Is difficult as an adult who juggles many creative pursuits. But lately I've been diving into, when I do have time, Black Flag Resynced, the Assassin's Creed pirate game.
Things.
Yeah, that was a big one for my childhood. So when they announced the remastered version, I was very excited. So I had to make some time to jump into that one, and it's been very fun. It's also been actually very inspirational for a certain kind of pirate culture that exists in one of my works in progress. So
nice.
I like to think that I'm being somewhat productive when I play it.
It's research.
Yeah, it's research.
It's like all the tax write-offs that you can do for your traveling. Right? It's research. Exactly.
All right. Well, before we dive into the interview, Michael, I do have just one quick exciting announcement for everybody. We have soft launched our Quill Query Discord. So if you go to our link tree in our bio on Instagram, you can just join through there. I'm still getting things kind of organized there, but I've been putting that one off for a while. So this will give me the push to get that up and running. But hope to see some of you there. You can follow along with show announcements, ask us questions, give us topic suggestions, and engage with a community of fellow writers and readers.
Woohoo. We're official.
That's awesome. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. We have already got a few author friends in there who have been on the show before, so it won't be completely empty at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited.
All right. Well, with all of that stuff out of the way, we can talk all things Crownfall and Michael Vadney. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and your published works. I know you've got a Crownfall out most recently, but if you've got anything else out there that you want people to know about, feel free to talk about those as well.
Yeah, I don't think my writer origin story is particularly unique. I think a lot of us really think about writing a lot growing up and really desire to make that this is the thing that I give my life over to. But the reality is most of us don't start out that way. We have responsibilities that we have to take care of. We go to college or we go directly into the workforce and we figure out other things with life. And then we start realizing, crap, I still want to do that thing and I'm running out of time because we only have this limited time on Earth. I should probably start doing it. And that's kind of what happened to me when I started approaching my 30s, where I was just like, I've established the career. I have a house. I have everything taken care of that I wanted to take care of to make sure that I could continue to exist. And I was like, I still want this. And it's not going to happen unless I actually commit my life to it, to commit the time and the hours to learning the discipline to make it happen. And it didn't work out right away. I went 8 or 9 months at a time where I didn't write a single thing. But then about 2 or 3 years ago, I really nailed down what I needed to do to make it work for me, to make the process work for me. I started the Author Adjacent podcast so that I could interact with the community more in ways that you can't necessarily do unless you have like a book or a product to put out there. And through that, I just started meeting more authors and talking to more people and learning more about the craft that I could immediately apply into what I was writing. And then as of April 28th of this year, Crownfall came out and I was just super excited with it. And I was very happy with how far it's come so far. And I've just found that you can give yourself as much as you want to this pursuit and it will be just as rewarding. Whether it's not always going to be one-to-one, but with the writing community and such like that, if you give an hour, you'll get just as much back. If maybe not now, but eventually. And just everyone has been really awesome with that. And because I released Crownfall and people have heard about it and they check it out, I got invited to a few anthologies that I'm actually working on right now. One of them I can talk about is the Rings of Adventure anthology that goes out on Kickstarter in September. I have a short story in that called Grim Arithmetic, which I'm very excited about because it is a short story that introduces the new world that my next series starts in. And it's a little bit of a prequel to help set it up. And I'm very excited for that series. So really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, very cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me asking, was there anything, I know you talked about hitting certain goals with your life before, really committing to publishing. Was there anything that gave you that final push to start Author Adjacent and really, start taking writing super seriously, setting those goals for yourself and getting Crownfall, your debut out?
Oh, yeah. It would be the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington, actually. Islington,
okay.
Islington. I never know how to say his last name.
Yeah, I've seen it both
one
ways.
of those two. Yeah, same.
I'm not. Is that Will of the Many, Strength of the Few, all of that, or is that a different trilogy?
Same author, but it's a previous series. His debut series was called the Licanius trilogy. It started with A Shadow of All That Is Lost. And it's a fantasy time travel story that has like one of the best endings to a trilogy that I've ever read. And what really like got me going there was I was in like my mid to late 20s when I started reading that series. And I was reading the author bio at the end, and it started out with like James Islington was in his 31st year when he finally decided to start writing. And I had the dumbest thought in the world where it was just, it's not too late. I can still do it. There's time. And now I know that's the dumbest thing in the world. Like, you can start writing at 45, 50, 60. It doesn't matter. Like, if that's something that kind of like burns in your heart and you want to do it, do it. If you can carve space in your life to make it happen, make it happen.
Yeah, I can definitely relate.
That was the big thing.
Yeah. I think we can all definitely relate to that. Feeling like it's too late, even though that's insane. There's so many publishing success stories of people well over my age and anyone else who's thinking that who have come out very successful with their first book. So it's nice to hear that from you. Ash, did you want to take the next one?
Yeah, why don't you just tell us about Crownfall? Tell us the synopsis, the plot, anything you want to talk about. Give us the breakdown and the spiel.
Definitely. I'll start with a nice little book flick. I get a lot of practice doing that.
Very nice cover, by the way.
Thank you. I'll start there, actually. This cover I'm absolutely in love with. I worked with someone named Katerina Belikova. She is ninjajoe_art on Instagram. She is an amazing artist. You'll probably have seen her art on a few more indies that have been coming out too, like Kill Switch Protocol by MJ Kuhn, A Murder Most Fungal by Adrian M. Gibson. I would not be surprised if you keep seeing more of her art because she's just crazy talented. Like, I'll even get that like real close so people can see it.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cover was inspired by the covers of the Unhewn Throne trilogy, which is by, what is your name? I can't remember his name right now. But it's this really dark, grim, dark fantasy that I absolutely love. And the covers are amazing. They have that painterly style. And when I was talking to Katerina, I was like, hey, I would like to go with this style, but I have 3 characters. They look roughly like this. And I just gave her this big old document of like what I was going for. And she read it and she just ran with it and absolutely killed it. Like, I'm absolutely in love with that cover. But as far as the story itself, Crownfall is about a thief, a noble lady, and a magical engineer as they are radicalized against the viceroy of their nation. Their nation has been occupied for 10 years by a foreign empire, and they just all slowly come to terms with everything is not right with the world. And there's action, there's political intrigue, and there's just this really cute romantic subplot because I'm just a sucker for a good love story. I'm just a big fan of it overall, and while I am wholly biased, the reception has been overwhelmingly positive. It's absolutely shocked me how much people have liked it so far, and I'm just internally grateful to everyone who's like read it and reviewed it, and it's just like, holy crap, this is working.
Yeah, it's always awesome. Always nice to see when you put a part of yourself out there that other people are, enjoy it as well. It's a scary thing to do, and I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of new authors. Yeah. So you may have said this already, so sorry if I missed it, but is Crownfall a standalone or is it part of a new series?
Yeah. I consider it a standalone with series potential. That is the classic moniker that you throw out, especially when you're like traditionally publishing. Mm-hmm. But I kind of adopted that same attitude because I indie published this. I did it all myself, minus like all the people that I hired to help me and the great advice that I got from the community at large. But I didn't want to commit myself to writing a series that no one wanted to read. So if I wrote Crownfall and I put it out there, and while I am incredibly proud of it and I love the story, I didn't know how people were going to react to it. And if I put it out there and it didn't do well, I didn't really see a reason to put myself on the hook to write a second or third or even fourth book in this if no one wanted to read the first. So I very intentionally made the business decision that Crownfall was going to be a standalone. It's a full, complete story, but there's enough at the end that if the masses chased after me with pitchforks and torches, I can give them more.
Yeah,
That's
very
really
interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think we've ever interviewed someone who's kind of thought about that process, because most of us, in particular me, are such like series people. You know, you get these long ideas and these like long-term plans, like a novella here, a novella there. But I think it is important to know your story well enough to say like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to try, give it a shot, and if it works, yeah, you can move on or try something new and always come back to it. So that's really interesting.
Well, it's also like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's very interesting to see that mindset in an indie publishing sphere, because it's very prevalent in traditional publishing. From what I've seen, is that you want your first book to be that standalone with series potential, as you said. But you don't really see a lot of that in indie publishing, where people approach it with that mindset. So yeah, that was just my thoughts.
No worries. I think if you want to do this full time, that is my goal. I want to be a full-time creative. Like my hope is that by 40, I can do just being an author and a podcaster and whatever else I end up being as far as a creative goes. But in order to do that, I have to really think about all of this as, yes, it is art. Yes, I love creating it, but it's also a business. I'm a small business owner, as is every other self-published author. And you kind of have to balance those two things. I've since kind of updated my opinion, where I even think that if you are trying to be an author, one of the best things that you can do is your first thing to be a novella, because it's short. You don't have to deal with the longevity and the endurance that's required to do a full novel, but you still get the experience of fully publishing, fully drafting and editing and coming up with cover art, the full publication and marketing experience. You still get everything with a lot less of an investment. And if you do that and it works out and you enjoy the process, whether it's financially successful or not, doesn't really matter too much. But like, if you enjoy the process and then you're like, yes, I love this, I want to do it more, then go on to novels and series. But that's what I would have done if I could go back in time.
Yeah, that's unique advice too. I don't think we've ever had someone who is also, or at least talked in this podcast about kind of trying it that way. The anthology sphere is usually where so many of us kind of, dip our toes in the writing water, or
that's a good place too.
Submitting short stories to publications all over. But I think the novella is such a good, I hadn't really ever thought about that. You think of a novella kind of in between stories to kind of bolster the time between completion of novels, but it is fun to stretch your wings and dive into the world that people might be interested in if that novella is a success. So yeah, really, really good advice.
That's a good way to test waters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we talked a little bit about your approach to publishing. What was the process of publishing and writing Crownfall like for you? About how long was it? What parts of the process were more difficult than others? Just kind of take us through the journey.
Yeah. So I originally thought when I was writing Crownfall that I would take it traditional first. I thought I would go into the query trenches and try that for about a year, and if that didn't work out, I would indie publish it. But it took meeting Adrian M. Gibson, the author of Mushroom Blues and one of the co-hosts of the SFF Addicts. That's always a tongue twister for me. Podcast, that I met him through doing a review for one of his books, and we just started talking and became friends, and now he's my mentor in a lot of ways for indie publishing. And it was through him that I really understood what indie publishing was and how much control you had over the possibility of your success if you were willing to put in the time, if you could put in the effort, if you had space in your life to make that work. And I was like, you know what? Let's skip the traditional. Let's go straight to indie and just see what happens. And so far, it's worked out. As far as writing it goes, it took 10 drafts for me to finish Crownfall. It was really fun in the outlining and the drafting stages. That's my bread and butter. I love to outline when the ideas are still perfect and everything fits together because they're not real yet. But I really struggled with the editing. My wife is actually my editor, and she's phenomenal in a lot of ways. And one of the greatest ones is she doesn't let me be lazy. When I thought a solution was good enough, she was like, no, you can come up with something better. And she was right. Like the story is so much better for that kind of feedback. But when we were getting through drafts like 7 and 10, where I was working really closely with my editor, my wife, and really trying to hammer out the details for like, if this happens here, this can't happen there. That was really the biggest struggle for me, because you have to keep in mind so many things at the same time, especially across the span of a novel with 3 POV characters, 122,000 words. When you change something here, it's just like a scatter effect that changes everything else. And that really struggled with me, as I have limited RAM in my brain and cannot keep track of so many things, which is why I'm an outliner. I like to write things down and plan things out and kind of offload some of that mental tax onto the paper. But yeah, I love outlining. I love the first and second draft stages. I was really fortunate in the early drafts of Crownfall. I actually wrote it with a writing group, Writers Anonymous in Dallas, Texas. And it was them that saw like the very first versions of Crownfall, which is wildly different than what it is now. And through them, like I learned the confidence to share my writing with strangers who eventually became friends. And I also just, it created a demand on my work, which is something an early writer, at least for me, really needed. Like someone else expecting, hey, you better have a chapter done this week because we're expecting to read it. And that was very motivating for me, especially early on when I was still trying to create the discipline of becoming an author. And that was a big step for me.
Did you have like any major anxieties stepping in that were either like, that I should have been anxious about this, I'm glad I was prepared to be anxious about this, or not? Was there anything that surprised you about what actually happened in that realm?
Yes. Despite this cool exterior, I am a ball of anxiety all the time, especially when I'm doing brand new things. The first time I ever do something, I am horribly scared of it. The first time that I did an episode of a podcast, the first time I interviewed someone, the first time I ever did a live, the first time I ever walked into a bookstore to try to get them to sell my book on their shelf, terrified every single time. And definitely I find that the more I do something, the more I get exposed to those nerves, the easier it gets. So like I've done probably 30 to 50 interviews not on my show. And then I'm going to have my 100th episode actually this Monday on Author Adjacent. So I've been exposed to a lot of that stuff, and it doesn't really bother me anymore to do it. But when I first do things, punching my mic, when I first do things, it's terrifying. And that's the way it was through the entire publishing process. Because when you've never done it, it feels like a black box. You don't know what's inside the box. It's just magic that somehow a book comes published outside of it. And I would say for anybody who feels that way, because I don't think it's a very unique feeling, that is one of the biggest reasons to entrench yourself into the community. Because you can talk to people who have gone through the process, who freely give their information. Like it's absolutely incredible, the resources available to you for just the asking. Just by going like, hey, I don't know how this KDP thing works. What does this button do? And people will be like, oh, yeah, that's a confusing button. They don't ever tell you what it actually does. This does this, this does that. And it's super helpful. And I don't think I would have had as smooth of a release if I didn't have a circle of authors who had already been through it that I could talk to and reach out to and be like, hey, I'm a ball of anxiety. How do I do this? And they just kind of just pat me on the shoulder and be like, we got you. Don't worry.
That's great.
Yeah, it really is amazing how welcoming and helpful the indie community can be online, for sure.
100%.
So I know you talked about a lot of community resources and your writing groups and things like that. Were there any resources, whether community or otherwise, that you found that you were using the most or to be the most helpful in the process of writing and publishing your debut?
Yes, I would say definitely for writing it. This is probably not a very unique one. A lot of people have done this, is Brandon Sanderson's lessons at, I think it's BYU. That could be wrong. It's some kind of university that he does that at. Those are super helpful if you're still learning how to write, like the basics of how to put a story together. Highly suggest them. They're absolutely free and very informative, very practical use cases. And that was where I really started thinking of writing as like more than just an art. It's also a business. Like I want to be successful enough that I can do this full time and pay my bills and pay my mortgage and all those things. So those classes really made me start thinking about it as both an art and a business. Another thing that I would probably suggest, and this is another business one, is I think it's called IBPA. It is a membership of a national organization of authors and libraries that you can join that does have like a yearly fee. And then once you pay that yearly fee, you get access to all of these services, including things like cheaper printing with Ingram Spark and cheaper buying of your ISBNs through Boker. And these are like just some business things that I thought were very useful, just to be a little savvy with my money, trying to do the financial side of publishing an indie book, because that is one of the barriers for a lot of people to self-publish. Is it's all on you. You have to pay for everything. It can be expensive. So there's a lot of different ways that you can try to cut those costs. As far as like the actual writing goes, like I said, Writers Anonymous in Dallas was huge for me. And then just the community that I had found around author adjacent through the authors that I interviewed and just interacting with people on social media. I was very fortunate to surround myself with some very giving authors, very supportive authors who were willing to invest in me to help me get over the threshold. And like that was absolutely huge for me. I cannot say enough about how much they supported me through that, like emotionally and both technically, like how do I do this kind of thing. And again, like shout out to Adrienne M. Gibson, Crystal Matar, Greta Kelly, MJ Kuhn. All of them were fantastic, and I really appreciate everything that they did to help me get through this.
That's so great. I think that's something that keeps coming up as advice from authors we've talked to, from anyone even outside of the podcast sphere, is just how essential community is, because when you're writing, it's so easy to just get in your own hole and creatively, physically kind of block yourself from the wider world. But, you know, as you mentioned, it's so important to find your people. It might take some time. It might take a while to infiltrate a Discord so that you can start talking to people, especially if you've never done it before. I think that's probably what intimidates a lot of people the most. And that vulnerability in asking for help, because in the future, you can also do that to other people who are just starting and pay it forward. So that's really lovely to hear.
It's a constant chain of people reaching back and helping each other out to pull them forward.
Right.
Like they all did it for me, and now I'm in a position to start doing it for other people. And that's been really fun. I've been really enjoying getting into like people's ARC reads, people like reaching out to be on the podcast and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, I got space for you. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. Did you want me to take the next question, Brandon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So talk to us about the writing process itself. What is the first step? What's the last step? You said you're a big outliner, drafting and all that kind of stuff. So walk us through when you sit down, what do you normally do?
Yeah, so with writing Crownfall and what I do now is definitely very different.
Okay, all right.
Like writing your first book, you learn so much, not just about like creating the story, but how you create the story. So when I wrote Crownfall, I decided I wanted to use the 3-act story structure as like the structure for my novel. And I was like, if it's good enough for Aristotle, it's good enough for me. But I have 3 main characters. And I decided, stupidly, that I was going to do the 3-act story structure for each one of them and then kind of like braid those together. And then I was like, yeah, this is a great idea. I'm being creative and unique, and I love this. But what ended up actually happening is drafts like 2 and 3 were very repetitive in the cadence that they were hitting, where we would have inciting incident, first turn. I'm like, this is a problem that I should have foreseen. So what I ended up doing was tearing it all apart and making it so that it was a single 3-act story structure throughout the whole novel, because I didn't need to show everything that I was showing. I think that's a propensity that we have as first-time novelists, is that the reader needs to know everything, and they don't. They only need to know what they need to know and very little else. But as far as writing Crownfall, once I made the 3-act story structure 3 times, I started like kind of signposting the order of events that I wanted them to happen in. And eventually, I kind of just got tired of outlining. I was like chomping at the bit to get to the writing part. Like I wanted to be an author. It's not going to happen until I start writing. So I started drafting. And luckily, I had the Writers Anonymous writing group for that weekly feedback of I would write a chapter, give it to them, and I'd have 3 to 5 people giving me feedback on that chapter. And that kind of helped inform the direction I was going with the plot. The plot itself didn't end up changing a lot between even drafts 1 and 10. But the things that really did change was the characters. Like, really getting to know the characters was difficult for me at first, as I think a lot of outliners have that difficulty. Because when you pants, like, you feel the character out on the page, and it's like, it's organic and it's very emotional. And that's one of the advantages of pantsing. And the advantages of outlining is that you have like a very tight plot without a lot of like excess fat on it. And through writing in those first drafts and working with the Writer Anonymous group, I really kind of nailed a process that worked for me, where I would plot the high level stuff and the chapter level stuff. But when I got to the page, that is where I found the characters. And the feedback of the writing group was insurmountable, or not insurmountable. Like, I absolutely needed that in order to find the characters, because it was really rough for me at first. But yeah, I did that with Writers Anonymous up until about draft 4 or 5. And then it was mostly just myself. I had moved 45 minutes to an hour away. So I was just going through feedback myself. And then I gave it to beta readers, which was a whole new group of people who had never read anything I'd written before. Some of them were authors. Some of them were trusted friends that I knew were critical readers. And I got a lot of feedback with that as well. And that's when I started to feel like I'm becoming an author. I'm on my way, because I handed the book to people who were authors, and they read it and they're like, hey, these are the areas you need to work on, but these are the areas that you're doing pretty good. And that was so validating for me. So like, I highly encourage people to seek out feedback as early as you are comfortable with. You don't need to be handed out first drafts like I did. Like, not everybody needs to do that. But as soon as you feel ready, maybe even a little before that, start getting that feedback, because 1, it will help you find where you need to improve. But 2, it will let you know where you're already a rock star, because chances are you're good at something. It could be the action, it could be the dialogue, it could be the world building, but you're probably good at something. And getting that validation from people who are already established in the field was huge for me. Sorry, I know I'm rambling a lot with these explanations.
No, that's what you're supposed to do. No. This is your interview. You can talk at length about whatever you want, honestly. So please don't feel.
I appreciate it.
Don't feel anxious about that.
Oh, that's impossible. I'll just pretend. But thank you.
There we go. Fake it till you make it.
But yeah, like, I gave it to beta readers. I got that feedback. I thanked them all in the acknowledgments, because that is when Crownfall really started transforming into the story that it became today. And honestly, those last 3 to 4 drafts was just me and my editor hammering out everything, trying to solve all of the problems that were really coming out, because this is, while it is very beginner friendly in a lot of ways, we have 3 main characters with a lot of political intrigue, a lot of action, a lot of moving parts. And I had to make sure that those parts work together, that the puzzle pieces all fit together. And that was really difficult for me, because like I said earlier, just trying to keep all that in my head. And then I finished it early this year in about, I think it was January, which was 2 months after I had planned to release the book. I had to delay my release, which was a shame, because I had already reached out to, I want to say like 20, 30 podcasts to do a book tour, and I'd already scheduled the whole thing out. And I had to reach out to all of them and be like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I need to push this back 2 months because I'm not ready. And luckily, everybody was really cool. Like, I know there's a lot of fear for reaching out to podcasts and blogs and being like, hey, could I please participate? And I encourage people to do it, because the worst thing that's going to happen is either 1, they'll say no, or 2, you won't hear anything back because they're busy, and podcasting is something you do as a secondary or third or fourth version of whatever your day job is. But yeah, and then the book was done. I got it off to printing with KDP and Ingram Spark so that I could sell them through my own website as well. And then it was time to get ready for the digital book tour, which I did for 2 months in March and April, where I had pre-orders available, and I was on a show almost every other day, like 1 to 3 times a week. I was either on a blog, a podcast, or a live view for 2 months, just promoting my book, promoting other people's efforts, and just being a visible face in the community so that you could not get away from me in Crownfall if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's I think that's actually where I found out about Crownfall is those 2 months leading up to release. So your strategy definitely worked because that's when you you popped up on my radar, and I was like, I put like a gave you a follow and was like, I'll keep an eye on this one, and then you reached out to be on the show, and so it was it was really cool to see that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I definitely attest all of the effort that I put into doing the book tour was from Adrian M. Gibson again. He did a similar digital book tour when he released Mushroom Blues. Again, I think we both did a little overboard on it, and we both agree that we did, but it was still wholly worth it because of things like that. Like, because I found so many new people and made so many new relationships and just said like, hey, this is a thing. Pay attention to it, please.
Yeah. It's almost like you do kind of have to...
Go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you kind of do have to flood the algorithm nowadays, though, just so you're really top of mind for everybody, because, it's blink and you'll miss it almost. So
yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I was like, it's so hard to get through the noise, or not even noise, like, and I wouldn't even call it competition, but with this like rise of self-publishing and indie publishing, it is hard to make a mark or to stand out in any way, and especially when so many people are getting taken from the indie publishing world, and then like traditional publishing gets them, so it's like it's hard to cut through. So it's good to know that method works. I might have to steal that in the future, just really go into it. I highly
suggest it. Yeah, like if you have the capacity, if you have the time, because that's all it really cost me was a little bit of time and effort, and I was cold emailing people and just being like, hey, this is who I am. Like that's how I reached out to you guys. I was just like, hey, I'm Michael Vadney. This is my book. This is what it looks like. This is what it's about. I would love to be on your show.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people I reached out to where I didn't hear anything. And that was fine because life's busy. I get it. But I highly encourage anyone who is releasing a book, whether it's a debut, a second, it doesn't matter. Like, do at least a small book tour, because it's such a great way to engage with the community, make friends, and promote your book.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah, and on that note too, Quill Query is always looking for guests, so
send us
email us first. Yeah, okay. So we talked a little bit about the feedback process and how you kind of iterated on all of that. So I'll jump past that question and into the challenging parts of the process, because I know before you had mentioned like drafts 7 and 10, I think, posing unique challenges. So tell us a little bit more about the most challenging things that you faced with that, leading up to being able to say this is done. Like, when did you reach that point of knowing that you were ready to put this out there?
Yeah, those last few drafts really took a lot out of me and my wife, honestly, because we had originally had a deadline that by the end of the year it would be done, and then I would start my digital book tour. I would start doing it in February and March. That didn't happen. I ended up pushing it back. Or March? Yeah, that's right. I ended up pushing it back, but there was definitely a time where we were crunching. We were trying to make it work and trying to get through all the fixes, because we were like, we're making great changes. Every iteration was an improvement that was making the book better. But it also made it clear that, you know what? There's a little bit more work to be done. We're not quite there. And we were having like a really difficult time with it, because like it was a lot of stress. We go to work all day and doing that, and then we would spend all the time from after work till bed working on it every day, and it was very stressful because like we had different thoughts and ideas for like how we would fix things and how like the story should go this way or that way, and it was really testing like our ability to communicate and get through this. And we eventually were just like, you know what, we could make this happen, we could make this deadline work, but we need to think about the longevity. We need to think about who we're going to be after this, because we would burn ourselves out if we make this happen. And then I still had to do 2 months of a digital book tour. I still wanted to keep working on projects afterwards. And I had seen other authors who had burned themselves out just trying to push as hard as they could again and again on their debut novel. And then they didn't write anything for like a year or more, because they were just so burnt out from the creative process of trying to make it work, because you put so much pressure on yourself on that first book. And just through what we were experiencing and through what I'd seen with other authors, we eventually turned to each other and we're like, you know what, we need more time. We'll push back the tour, give ourselves 2 months, which was way more than we thought we needed, just so that we could breathe, take a break, don't even look at it for like another week, just so that we can kind of like simmer down on all the emotions that we were having through this process. And that was definitely like, that was the dark moment before the dawn for me, where it was just like, do I want to keep doing this? Like, do I want to be an author? Like, is it worth this? And I asked myself that again when we finally finished it. We got through the editing. The week or so break that we took was absolutely necessary. It felt really good. We made a timeline, which should have happened way earlier in the process, for figuring out where chapters should go and such. And eventually, like, we got through our latest pass, and we were like, this is really good. Like, it's solid. Is it a perfect book? No, not by any means, but it's a damn good book. It's a very polished debut, if I say so myself. But I definitely had a moment where, like, I was sitting in this chair actually, and I just was like, wow, I did it. It's done. Do I want to keep doing it? And I had that very serious debate with myself, because a lot of us really build up that idea of being an author and writing a book. And then when you finally do it and it's in your hand, it's like, okay, was it worth it? And ultimately I decided yes, because I'm still here. But I found that, like, I loved writing stories. I loved interacting with the community. And while, yes, not all of it is fun, you have to do the marketing. In my case, you have to do the editing, which is my least favorite part. Ultimately, the good outweighed the bad. And I absolutely loved just wearing myself away at something I loved doing. I'm a big fan of, like, Stoicism and Stoic philosophy. And there is this quote from Meditations that is just, is this what you were made for? To lie underneath the bed and sleep in your warm blankets or something like that. And it's just about, like, what were you made to do? What is the thing that brings you joy, even when it is wearing away at you? And for me, writing Crownfall, I found that, like, it was writing. I really loved doing this. Even the parts that sucked were totally worth it. I'm not sure if that's actually answering your question. I think I went on a tangent there.
No, I definitely think you answered the question perfectly, because I think that is something a lot of people don't think about, is once you get that first book out, did you enjoy the process of doing that enough to, like, and was the end result worth it enough for you to keep doing that? For future books. And I think that really emphasizes the approach that you took with the standalone with serious potential, because then if you decide that's not for me, I really thought I would enjoy that a lot more, and I just maybe I didn't want to be an author, and then you don't have that incomplete series kind of staring at you from the corner over there. So
no regrets. There's this interesting phenomena that, like, a lot of people don't really talk about in public spaces that much with releasing a debut novel either, is when you're releasing and you're doing your digital book tour and you're, like, building up to the release, there's this huge high of emotion that just keeps going up, up, up. And then you finally release and everything is happening and it's amazing. You've published a book, but then you're no longer pushing that boulder up the hill. And there's this huge emotional crash for a lot of people, because there is so many wonderful endorphins with releasing a book and getting that feedback and all those reviews and whatever happens with the publishing. But then you are eventually by yourself doing your thing. It lulls down into a steady cadence, and you kind of have to just pick up the pieces of yourself in that moment and just decide, like, is this something you want to keep doing? And how do I mitigate this rise and crash next time?
That actually flows pretty well into the next question. How do you balance everything while you're writing? And then how did you emotionally handle the release itself and the post publishing kind of phase?
I would say mental health is something that's been incredibly important to me for most of my life. I've struggled many years with, like, anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So I'm very fortunate that before getting into publishing and being an author, I've worked very hard on myself to be better at these things, to better handle them, to make sure that I get enough sleep, to make sure that I exercise, and really take care of my physical body so it's easier to take care of, like, my mental mind. And that helped a lot. I would say another thing that really helped a lot, again, I'm going to bring it back to community, is just being able to talk to people who had already gone through it, and they could tell me what was down the road. I saw what they went through, they talked to me about it, and I could be like, okay, this is not going to catch me off guard. I know what's going to happen. And the other part was just trying to be realistic with everything that was happening. I wanted to keep my expectations very low no matter what happens. And I still try very hard to do that. Like I said, I wrote it as a standalone with series potential because I didn't know if anybody would want it. And I was like, it didn't matter to me if... Actually, I'm not going to say that. That's not entirely accurate. I care. Obviously, I care that I want people to like it, but I wanted to go into it with a mindset of if nothing happens with it, if it doesn't go anywhere, I still got what I needed out of the process. I learned how to write a book. I learned how to publish. And even if nobody reads it, I'm proud of what I accomplished because I have grown so much as a person through writing Crownfall. And that when someone holds this in their hands, it's like it's a dream come true. I've always wanted to do it. So the fact that if it never becomes viable and it never becomes financially successful, that's fine. I accomplished my dream already. Now I'm just looking forward to the next dream. And that kind of mind shift of like, don't focus immediately on your current project or your past project. Just keep taking the steps forward. What is the next step? What is the next thing that you want to be working on? And just keeping that cadence of ongoing projects. I said earlier in the show that I'm not a very idle person, and it's because I'm constantly trying to move to the next project to keep pushing forward to, okay, cool. I put a book out and I love it. I'm very proud of it. What's the next thing I can start working on? Well, I can start working on some short stories. I can start outlining my next series that I'm very excited for. I can start learning how to narrate and put a sound booth together so I can record an audiobook. There's always the next project. I'm never done. And once I understand that, like, this is the process, this is the cyclical nature of all this, I can really just commit myself to that and just enjoy the suffering of the process. I know that sounds morbid, but it's just I'm giving my suffering to something that I really care about. So even the good things and the bad things, it's all worth it because I'm going where I want to.
It's a good suffer. Totally. It's a good suffer. I don't think I've spoken to any artist, including writers, who doesn't just, when they're talking to their peers, go into all the woes. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. But then when you ask them, like, but do you love it? It's like, yeah, I love it so much. Absolutely. Of course I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah, so that's so relatable on so many levels.
Yeah. I didn't understand the whole thing where artists and writers, they'd be like, if I could do anything else, I would do that instead, but I can't.
Right. I can't.
I didn't understand that until I wrote Crownfall. And I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
Because I can't stop. And I wish I could, but I can't.
It's addicting. Totally. It's addicting too, especially when you have like your first success, whatever success means to the individual, but you know, your first short story, your first novel, it's like, oh wait, I can do this. And it's so worth it in so many ways. To some people, I'm sure it's not. You know, they want to have a try at it and they just go, man, it's too much, or family gets in the way, or, you know, understandably so. Work, things like that. That's always what we struggle with the most between Brandon and I, is the work-life balance. You know, I'm a social person, but also work and da-da-da-da. But yeah, at the end of the day, those moments where you can just say, I made the thing that I've said I wanted to make for a really long time, and it's here. It's been brought into the world. It's the high from that is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as like balancing the actual like work-life balance, I will say that I have a huge advantage in that, like, I don't have kids. It's just my wife and I and our animals and stuff. And the authors that make that work and they have like the traditional family and stuff like that, that is so impressive to me. I am blown away by that. As far as like my own work-life balance, I get up very early in the morning at like 5 a.m. because I'm a morning person. And that's usually where I get a lot of my writing done. And then I do my day job. I'm a software engineer. And then I work remotely, so I don't have to commute, which is, again, very thankful and advantageous. But then when I get off work, I do the podcasting stuff. I do social media stuff. I try not to do social media stuff throughout the day, but that's really hard. And you gotta really regulate yourself on that one. But then the evening is just spent doing whatever project I can, or just trying to be social with my wife or just friends that I have around. But again, I'm not really idle. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't play as many video games as I used to. Most of my life is just dedicated to this.
We have a very similar morning schedule. I'm also up at 5 a.m. and I work remotely in web design. So
hey. Perfect.
Yeah, I try to write in the mornings, but like I usually am better if I like work out in the morning and write at night. Because if I try to flip them, I find that the workout does not get done because it's after work and I can't do it. But yeah,
dude, I don't know how you write in the evenings though, because like I'll go to work all day and I'll feel like that fries my brain, and then I try to write after work, and it's just like I'll get something done, but not nearly as much.
Yeah, I've tried both, and there's definitely like a trade-off either way for me. So it does take a lot more push to get it done in the evenings for sure, to push through that, because I'm not using my body for work at all. I'm sitting at a desk, so it's a lot of mental drain throughout the day. But yeah, absolutely. I just the physical health, like you said, is super important in kind of complementing your mental health. So
absolutely,
I've found that I'm just the best at getting that exercise out of the way in the morning, and then I don't need to worry about it for the rest of the day. I can think about writing later on, and yeah, that's how it works for me.
Yeah, especially living in all these hot and muggy states that we all live in. It's better to do it before the sun comes up.
Yeah, that too, because my gym setup is in the garage, and so if I am down there after the sun's up, it's especially during the summer, just forget about it, because it's not going to happen.
It's awful. Yeah,
same boat.
I go back to work officially because I've been working from home since COVID, and they finally said, no, you got to come back to the office. So my whole schedule is going to be flipped, but I'm taking it as a positive because I've tried a couple times to be a super morning person, waking up at 5. My brain doesn't function very well that early, like creatively. I'm like Brandon, where like even after work, sitting down for 30 minutes to an hour, as soon as I can transition immediately into that space, because my brain's already been going all day, I have much more success. But I think with this transition back to work, I'll become a morning person, go to a coffee shop a couple times a week in the morning, get some words down, and then go right into work, and then have the evenings free for other stuff. But I'll let you know how successful I am at that.
Good luck.
It'll be a trial and error for sure.
There's definitely something special about coffee shop writing. I don't know what it is. I just love the vibe.
It's romanticized for sure. And that's something I've learned over the past couple years too. One, I'm a super outliner like you. I have to be. I can't, to a certain extent. And two, I find that being outside of my living space, I'm so much more creative and able to kind of focus on nothing else but the work. But when I'm here, I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't get my laundry done, or the dog has to go out. I'm going to take the dog for a walk actually now, and dinner, and all the responsibilities. But if I'm at a cute little coffee shop, shout out to Abby's Books and Brews in Richmond for being open at 5 in the morning, I feel like, oh, this is what an author does. And then I get my 2 cups of coffee and I can get some stuff down. But yeah, early mornings, my brain is just like, hello, we're still asleep here. And so I gotta practice.
Oh, good luck. I have faith.
Thank you.
You got this.
I think I'll be good.
All right. Well, we did talk a lot about people who have been instrumental in kind of helping you throughout your publishing journey, whether that's been other authors or people giving you feedback. But who would you say are some of your heroes when it comes to storytelling? Like the people you look to as your biggest inspirations, or, you know, in a dream scenario, like I would love to be known for kind of something like they are. Is there anyone who really stands out as that hero figure for you in writing?
Definitely. I would say a lot of my like early reading, and still an inspiration for a lot of the action and the mechanics of action, would be R.A. Salvatore. Huge Salvatore fan. I've read a lot of his books growing up, and I would even go so far as say like he was my first author where I was just like, this is my favorite author and I'm going to read everything. And I tried my darndest to. I read a lot of it. I have probably see it. That one, the brown one right there, is the Spear Wielder's Tale by R.A. Salvatore, and it's the full trilogy right there. And I've probably read that book 7 or 8 times throughout like high school and early college, and it's super beaten up, and I love it. But yeah, Salvatore is a huge inspiration for me as far as like action goes and just like the momentum of things. I have to shout it out to Brando Sando for sure. Like even just looking at this cover, like you can probably see a little bit of like Mistborn energy in it. I get it. For
sure, yeah.
Definitely an inspiration for me for just one, not just as an artist, because he's a very prolific artist, but to just like the business side of things. One of the things that makes Brandon Sanderson so successful is, one, he can pump out a lot of books. Two, he's really good at the emotional impact of his stories. All of his stories end in a bang. It's the Sanderlanche. Like you're left at the end of the story of just like, wow, that was a journey. And he's really good at that. And then the third thing is he's just really good at the business side of it. That really helped him blow up on that side. And just trying to pay attention to those things has really shaped my attitude towards being an author and a writer, because yes, I am an artist, but I am also a small business owner. Mm-hmm. But where I would love to go as far as like my writing goes, I hope someday I'm as good as ML Wong. Like her prose is just so good. And she just knows characters and she knows people. And I just love the way she describes things. There is a line very early in Blood Over Brighthaven, one of her books. It's a standalone. And it describes this foreign language that this man is hearing. He doesn't understand the words, but he describes the foreign language through the narration as the serrated edge of a leaf. And I had to put the book down. And I was like, I never would have thought to make that comparison. That's amazing. Because it tells you everything you need to know in like just a small little bit. And that book was very impactful for me. Like I cried at the end. It was so good. And like I love that. And Sword of Kaigen is really good. I want to get that good with my prose. But right now I say I write more like Brandon Sanderson and R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely familiar with Salvatore and Sanderson. I have not read any of Wong's books yet, but they are on my radar. I know she's got some great standalones that you mentioned. So
yeah, so good. Both of them are really good. She has a YA series that I have not tried, and I've heard it's okay, but her standalones are amazing.
Well, we're going to get a little broad with the next question, I think, just for a brief second. But, you know, with talk now of
more
AI,
room to ramble.
Yeah, exactly. with AI having such a recent and kind of devastating effect on the publishing industry and the arts in general, what are your thoughts on AI in the writing sphere and publishing, especially having gone through the process yourself?
Yeah. I definitely have a more nuanced opinion on AI than I would say most writers and stuff, because I am a software engineer. I do use AI in my daily work for like writing code and testing things and all kinds of stuff. So I do not think it is like blanket blood magic evil. Yeah. I do think it is a tool that can be used for evil, though. I am against generative AI. I don't think it should be writing books and creating art and stuff like that. Because my attitude is I want the robots to exist so that they can do my laundry, so that I can do my art, so I can spend more time doing that as opposed to working. But right now, in a lot of situations, the robots are doing my art so that I can do my laundry and my work. And I'm like, this is backwards. This is not really what I want to do. This is not
what I was promised. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you're always going to have those people that are trying to make a quick buck and trying to just see the business side and the money side of producing art, of producing books, and trying to just like make a quick buck. That's going to happen. If any tool becomes available, it's going to happen. But I think in general, readers want a human connection, because that's what we're doing when we write stories. When you read a book and you pick it up, like if you pick up a book by ML Wong, that is a connection between who you are as a person in that moment and who ML Wong was in the moment that she wrote that book. Because every act of art is an act of empathy, and you can't get that from an AI written book. You can't get that from an AI art. Yes, I'm sure it can be very technically well done, but you're not going to get that emotional connection. And I feel very strongly about that. Please use AI to cure cancer and all the research and all those things. Yes, do that. That's amazing. Stop making books with it, and stop punching my mic, Michael. Stop that.
Passionate, yes.
I'm very passionate.
Yeah,
but
no.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, totally agree, because like you said, just in the fields that we both work in, it's kind of inevitable that we have to use it there, and so you're able to kind of see it from a lens that a lot of people can't, and understand where it's okay and where it can be ethically used, and not taking away from the intent of creative work. Like you said, you want the robot to do the technical stuff, your laundry, and the not so fun parts of life. But but yeah, the human element of art is just, it's so important. And we actually recently got a question, Ash, on TikTok, kind of just about AI books surpassing, what happens when AI can execute a book really well on a technical level. At what point do we think people would, prefer AI versus human written books? I thought it was a really interesting question. We'll definitely have to dive into it on a future episode. But
yeah,
I think Michael kind of touched on a lot of that very well, where it can be technically well written for sure. I don't think anyone would say otherwise, but it'll never have that human element behind it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things with AI, but there's just a lot of bad things with it too. And where that line is, where it is in the gray space of like, this is good, this is bad, is going to be different for every person. And that's kind of just something that you have to seek in your heart, which what are you okay with and what are you not okay with whatever your values are. But I think for the most part, we can agree that AI writing books sucks.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
We don't need more of this. I mean, come on.
I agree.
100%.
Especially, like, a part of that is also just, and this will be my last comment on it, is the work that goes into it. Hearing how much work everyone we've interviewed has put in to creating something, just because it's easy and can maybe produce something that sounds similar. I just think the blood, sweat, and tears of it all is so much more powerful and important from an artistic human perspective, because if we lose that, we lose the context of what it is to be human. And it's like, okay, it can do what humans do, but I mean, how long did it take all of us to get our work out there? How many hours the friends made along the way? I don't know. There's just like there's something very special about it that I don't think AI will ever be able to reproduce. So fully agree.
Yeah, I think the best comment I've ever seen that kind of really hammers at home is, why would I be bothered to read something that you weren't bothered to write? And that always hits really hard, because it's, if the story means something to you, you're going to put the effort in and the hard work, the 10 drafts, Michael, then getting the story to be just right. And if you can't do that, then I don't know how you can expect people to care about it. So
that's a good way to put it.
All right. Well, we have some kind of staple questions at Quill Query that we like to ask in every interview that we've kind of saved for the end here. I'm going to start with the first one, and I'll let Ash pick one next. So the first one we have, we love to ask this one to everybody, is, what is the best writing advice that you've ever received? And then what is the worst writing advice that you've ever received that maybe you tried and you were like, this is terrible, I can't do it?
I would say the best writing advice I ever received, which is probably like one of my favorite things to pass on to other people too, is you don't have to be ready to start. Like whether it's to start writing in general or to move on from the outlining stage to the drafting stage, like you don't have to feel 100% secure in your position to get the ball rolling. And I think a lot of us are afraid to get started, and we're like, no, I once I do this, I can get started. And then once I do this, I'll be ready. And once I do that, and I think a lot of that is just we're holding ourselves back because it's very scary to pursue your dream, because when you start, there's a chance it doesn't go the way you think it will. And that's terrifying for a lot of people. So I think if you can come to terms with just not being ready, and that's okay, and just starting anyways, that would definitely be the best. The worst? Oh my. I'm gonna take this back to one of the guys in my writing group repeatedly said I should add in this bit about a lamp. And if he's watching this, he knows what he's talking about, what I'm talking about. Where there's this, where the magical engineer Gellert, that guy. So he's a magical engineer. So he works on technology that is powered by these crystals called cerussite. And there was a part where he was roughly starting a potential romance with someone, and he just kept telling me, like, you should do a bit with the lamp where it's just like fixing the lamp and he's trying to impress her with the lamp. And I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. But he kept telling me I should do it. And I think after a while, it just became a bit where he just thought it was funny to keep saying it. And I just thought it was funny to keep saying no.
It's gotta.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Some DLC, just extra for him.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
Just a little short story about the lamp.
That's not a bad idea. That'd be funny.
Yeah, that would be. Hey, remember? I've got you. Here it is.
And the best part is when he talks to other people about the book, they're gonna have no idea what he's talking about as well. That's not mine.
Yeah.
You remember the lamp scene? That was the best part.
That's funny. All right, so this is our second to last question. If there was one book you could read again for the first time, what would it be?
That is easy. It is Mark Lawrence's The Book That Wouldn't Burn. 100%.
Why is that?
So that one, Mark Lawrence is a fantastic author. He writes, he's got some grim dark stuff, and he's got some dark fantasy, a bunch of different blends on the spectrum of that kind of stuff. The Book That Wouldn't Burn, while still very serious and still very adult, is not as dark and grimdark as a lot of his other stuff. But it is the best twist/reveal that I have ever consumed in my life. I got to the twist, the reveal, and when it happened, it like everything that led up to that moment made sense in the story, and it was a really good story. But then this one scene changed the context of everything that happened beforehand in such a perfect way that I immediately wanted to stop reading the book and start over with this new information.
Wow.
I didn't. I finished the book, but then I immediately read the whole thing over again because he just seeds it so well. And I was just so impressed. It really blew me away.
That's
very
awesome.
cool.
I would love to
add-
experience that again.
Yeah,
put that on my
I'll have to
TBR.
add that series. Yeah, to the TBR. I have got his Book of the Ancestor on the shelf. I haven't gotten to that one yet either, though. So sounds like I got a lot of Mark Lawrence to read in the near future.
Yeah, he's really good. I have not read everything that he's wrote, but his Empire of Thorns, which starts with the Prince of Thorns, was the very first grimdark book that I ever read, like in my entire life, and it starts real dark.
Yeah,
And I was very impressed with like, I didn't know stories could do this, and it was publicly acceptable, but it was still very well written.
All right. Well, as we get closer to wrap up here, I'm going to open up the floor for anyone in the chat who's watching live who has any questions for Michael. But in the meantime, while we wait for some questions to come in, maybe tell us, I know you talked a little bit about one of your anthologies earlier. Are there any other projects people can look forward to hearing more about from you in the near future?
Definitely. So I'm still constantly shouting at the rooftops about Crownfall itself, trying to get that out there. The Rings of Adventure anthology that I mentioned earlier, it is an anthology of a little over 30 authors that we plan on releasing in December. And if you back the Kickstarter, which starts in September, you will actually get short stories every week in December as like little snippets of the short stories that are within the anthology. It is called the Rings of Adventure anthology because it is, why am I forgetting what it's called? Advent calendar. It's like an advent calendar of
very
short
cool.
stories in December.
That's so
I will
smart.
warn, they are not all like Christmas themed stories. They span fantasy, sci-fi, romance, and horror. Very few of them actually have anything to do with Christmas. It just was well timed. And I'm very excited for that. I am, like I said, working on the narration for Crownfall. I'm hoping to have an audiobook out by the end of the year. It's very much a learning process for me, but I absolutely love doing it. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for many years, and I love character voices, so this is just super fun for me, but it's also a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. So it's going to take me a little longer than I anticipated. And then the last big thing that I'm working on, well, I have two things. One is another anthology that isn't quite announced yet, so I can't say too much about it. But the other thing that I'm working on is I am in the outlining stage of what is going to be my next series, which I am incredibly excited for. It is inspired by the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington, kind of meets Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And yeah, I'm very excited for it. I'm planning for it to be, at this point, a 5-book series, kind of like short, punchy novels. And if you don't mind, I would love to give the pitch for that for a second.
Please.
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead.
okay. Right ahead.
Absolutely.
So it is about two brothers who travel back in time to save their mother from an accident that she died at. But when they travel back in time, they discover, one, she never died, and that she faked her death and left. They are then yanked back into the present, left with the questions of where did she go, why did she leave, and what has she been up to this whole time? and novel 1 starts with them trying to find their mother.
Very
So
cool.
exciting.
That's
I
a
love
very,
that.
very interesting hook that pulls you in pretty quickly.
Yeah,
so
immediately.
I need to know
so
more
excited.
already. So
Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, now, please.
I know. I'm trying. I'm very excited. I'm hoping to get the first book out sometime next year because, like I said, I'm aiming for 5 books that are shorter and punchier than this brick. But we'll see how that goes.
That's
yeah,
exciting.
they have a tendency to grow on you, don't they? When you
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah. I was definitely aiming for 100,000 words, and it ended up being 122. And I'm like, whoops.
Whoopsies.
Where those extra 22,000 came from?
Where'd they come from? I have no
Where'd
idea.
they
Yeah,
go?
they slipped in. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat today, but I just want to say,
We
Michael, thank
intimidated
you.
them.
Yeah, you scared them off. I just want to say thank you so much for being on and talking to us about all things Crownfall and your writing process. It's been great learning how you navigated this and hearing all the challenges that you powered through. And yeah, it's just been super fun to have you as our first return episode. So thank you for jumping on. And if there's anything that you want to say to the fans before we sign off, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first, I just want to thank y'all for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And you guys said that you're looking for guests and stuff. I'll make sure to kind of shout your guys' praises because I'm in a lot of author chats and they're always looking for shows. So I'm sorry if you get a bunch of emails after this.
No, not at all.
No, we love it. It's awesome.
Okay, good. I'll make sure to tell all the people. But yeah, as far as myself, hello, folks. If you haven't remembered who I am, I'm Michael Vadney. I wrote Crownfall, this noble dark fantasy adventure. And you can find this bad boy on Amazon.com, any of your local stores if you ask them to order it, because they'll just buy it through Ingram Spark. Or if you're feeling fancy and you're in the US, you can actually buy it through michaelvadney.com, and I'll sign it for you and put it in a pretty orange package and send it your way. If you haven't noticed, orange is an important color.
We love it.
But yeah, you can find me on all the social medias at Michael_Vadney, and you can find author adjacent brand new episodes every Friday on YouTube. And again, thank you all so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. This was truly excellent. Great advice. We hope to have you on again in the future when that next book comes out, and excited to read the book and the anthologies. I'll keep an eye out for the reveal of the one that you're hush hush about. That's always fun to keep secrets.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone in the chat who has tuned in. And again, thanks, Michael, Ash. Super happy to be back with Quill Query. And we'll be back in, I forget the exact date of our next episode, but every second and fourth Tuesday. Yeah, 2 weeks. So there we go. All right. Well,
we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody. See you.
Bye.
Bye, folks.